May 30th, 2022. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Don.
And we're back on Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody.
And, did you do anything for Memorial Day, Don?
I went to work.
Oh, really? You had to work today?
Yeah.
Damn,
listen,
sucks.
It's Memorial Day weekend. That's a furniture weekend.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? That's them people are all about coming out and getting their furniture fixed on.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's true.
Yeah. It wasn't so bad, but it was. Yeah,
is it hot in the warehouse with this temperature? Or do you guys got AC?
There's AC in the building, so that's not that bad. The warehouse part where the trucks are backed up to, that doesn't have any AC.
Okay. Yeah,
it's like it's not bad when you first get in there in the morning. You're like, oh, it's nice and cool back here, but then you open that big garage door with the trucks.
Yeah, it's like a blanket hitting you in the face, right?
Well, it's like the truck's been sitting in the sun, just blocked off. Yeah. So it's just a big fucking room of heat. It's just like you open the door and it's like a battle. You know, it's like it's the forces of cold versus the forces of hot.
Right. Yes.
It's just not.
You know, I was watching. I finished watching the Punisher, right? Because I hadn't finished it before, so I finished watching the last season of the Punisher. There's only 2 seasons, but it was okay.
Right.
And so I was like, I need to watch something else, right? Because I got ObiWan, watching the Clone Wars. I just felt like I needed another show, right? So I found Spider-Man from '81, and the cartoon, right? So it's like him, the Ice Dude. Iceman and
Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Yeah, and Sunfire or something?
Firestar.
And I was watching it, and I swear to God, I don't know if you've watched it recently or anything, but like the guy that plays like Iceman kind of sounds like Clint. And I was just kind of laughing about it. I'm like, I got to tell Don this. I was going to text you, but I'm like, I knew I was going to talk to you tonight, so I was like, I just had to tell you about that.
Yeah.
He just I don't know, if you get a chance, if you're on Disney, just look for it. And just play like the first episodes of Green Goblin or something, and you'll hear his voice. And it's not perfectly, but there's a lot of Clint in his voice, man. I'm just like, geez, it's weird.
If I remember correctly, his voice is like one of those classic cartoon voices that showed up in different cartoons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I know which one you're talking about.
Right. He just has that kind of, I don't
Clintonism.
know. Yeah. That's that kind of high kind of. I don't know how to describe Clint's voice, but you know what it is. Shit. But anyway, sorry, folks. It's a friend of ours.
Well, if they ever listened to Tumbling with Tumbleweed, they knew Clint.
I'm sure they've heard his voice.
Of course, but nobody listened. So
some people did. Also, Dave did.
That's true.
I think also Dave still listens to this. Yeah.
Shout out to Also Dave. What up, Dave?
So today I didn't do much of anything. I did some running around. I did a little bit of work myself, but that's just, because I had some time. And, but it's been kind of hot, and plus my back's still blown out. I'm better than I was last week. Still a bit of uncomfortableness in certain seated positions as well as laying down, but walking around I'm doing okay, but not lifting anything heavy because I don't want to re-agitate it.
Sure.
I'm going to start physical therapy this week, I think. I'm going to call and make the appointment. I'll probably only go once just to get some exercises to do. I don't think I need to keep going or anything because I'm getting better every day. And I more or less need to get the MRI done on the 15th or the 16th and, see what happens there. Anyway. Yeah. So, unfortunately, let's talk about school shootings a little bit here.
Hey, sweet.
Because we had that terrible school shooting that just happened where that kid, I guess, went in. I don't even really know the motive. I don't know if anybody does at this point. I don't think we ever really knew the motive of the Sandy Hook kid either, right? But very similar in the sense of kid comes in with like a AR-15 of all fucking guns. Every kid's got a fucking AR-15, which is weird.
Right.
And decides to just start killing little kids and teachers, right? But I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand what that is about. Like I get the Basketball Diaries kind of thing, the Klebold and Harris thing. I get it. Like I don't approve of it. Don't let anybody confuse what I'm saying. I don't approve of it in any fucking way, right? But I get the mentality, like when Klebold and Harris were bullied in school, right? That they were angry at the people and they wanted to kill them. I get that mentality. I don't understand is these kids that are so fucking upset that they're like, I'm going to go blow away innocent little children. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is going through your head? I mean, nothing, apparently. But what a horrible fucking thing to, like, what do you want, an express ticket to hell? Like, I don't understand that fucking mentality at all. Like, it's crazy to me.
I mean, I think it's a mental, I don't want to say disorder, because it's not like it's something you can pinpoint one thing or another to, but I think it's something mental where people get in they're in their head all the time, and in their minds, oh, this is the right thing to do. This is what I should do. You know what I mean? Which is wrong. You know what I mean? And and I'm pretty sure if they said to somebody, hey, I'm thinking about going and shooting these kids in the school, I'm pretty sure anybody else would be like, bad idea. Don't, dumb. Don't do that. Don't do that. Come up with something else. But it's just something and you can say to yourself, you could be like, yeah, I guess, but who really thinks like that? Man, people think, there's people out there that think the earth is flat.
Well, for sure, there's like a lot of I mean, this is all generated off copycats, right? Like, nobody had this idea until basically it blew up with the Columbine killings, right? And that's not to say that was the first school shooting, but it was the first thing where, like, it was so
mainstream,
right? Like, everywhere, and it sank into people's psyche that this was a thing that they could do. And obviously, we've seen tons and tons of school shootings. Now, I see these lists of school shootings that go around, and I think that there's lots of school shootings of kids that are disturbed like this that end up, shooting classmates and stuff. We've had many in our general area. I'm sure wherever people live, there's probably been one or two or maybe more. But I also think that some of these lists will take gang shootings that happen in schools, which is also wrong, right? But not quite the same thing in my mind. Like, there's a mental disorder thing, and then there's a gang thing. And in terms of like sending your kids to school, look, in your mind, you want your kids to be safe. I get it, right? You don't want any of this shit going on. But what I'm just saying is there's two issues there. There's a gang thing is something that's been around since the country's been founded, really. I mean, gangs of New York. I mean, it's gang. If they didn't have guns, they were stabbing each other with switchblades, right? They were beating each other with clubs. Like, gangs is a whole nother thing that'll probably never end. But in terms of like this mental health problem, which is the only way I can really describe it. But the thing that I find interesting, I'm interested in your thoughts on this too, is like, okay, everybody, especially on the left, is hot for gun control, right? And I think some gun control is definitely warranted in the sense of it's maybe a little too easy to get a gun. It is a constitutionally protected right, but I think that it's just the idea that you can just go into a store and buy a gun with a bunch of bullets and walk out the same day is a little disturbing, because if you are a person with a mental health issue, that's not enough time to really do a background check, which they don't have in a lot of places, to find out if this guy should be trusted with a firearm, right? As well as the fact that there's a lot of people out there that have no sense and no training, and they end up, thinking they understand what their rights are in terms of some of the laws that are out there, like stand your ground and castle doctrine and everything. And then they end up murdering people. Then they claim it's self-defense. You know what I mean? But it was like they were just yelling at each other. You know what I mean? And then the one guy was like, well, I fell for my life, and the cops were like, what do you mean? You could have fucking
took a step at me.
Yeah, you could have just fucking walked away. There's all kinds of these things. And so some of these people, I think there should be just some classroom training on how to properly use a firearm and when to use a firearm. And there should be, at least on a first purchase, and there should be some sort of background check, on this person, especially when it comes to mental health issues. And I know some people don't like that, but I just think, look, I got to live in this country too, and I don't need a bunch of fucking lunatics running around with guns just because we think that it's in the Constitution, so that makes it like a good thing. Doesn't mean it's a
Right.
good thing. We've amended the Constitution many times in the past. We could amend it again and fix it because it's a little bit goofy. But my thought process here, and this is the part I wanted to ask you about, is like, look, guns have been legal since the founding of this country, right? In the 30s, the 20s, the 30s, or whatever it was, you could go get like a Thompson submachine gun, you know what I mean, and load it full of fucking 100 rounds right off the shelf, no background check, no nothing. Now gangsters would get these things, Al Capone and all that shit, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, shoot each other up with these things. But your average kid, your 18-year-old, wasn't going to go buy a Thompson submachine gun and then lay waste to everybody in the school.
Right.
And it didn't happen through the 40s and the 50s and 60s and 70s. Even when the 70s were really kind of violent with all of the, in the 60s, of the paramilitary groups that were around at the time, Weather Underground and Nubian Fronts and all that kind of shit. Black Panthers and everything.
Right.
Still, nobody's shooting up schools, right?
Right.
So, and then you get into even like we went through the 80s and the 90s pretty much unscathed, and then you end up with Klebold and Harris and everything. And so I sit there and I ask myself, like, what is it about this time period that is causing this kind of depression in kids where they want to act out like this? Because let me just add to that too. Some people will say, "Oh, it's the internet," or "Oh, it's violent."
That's what I was going to say.
Violent video games, but that's not really like all that shit's in other countries. So you have all these other countries not having this problem. Now, granted, they don't have as much access to guns, but some do. I mean, you can go up to Canada and you can get a gun, you can get a rifle. Right. And if you wanted to, I mean, maybe you could get a revolver and you could go plug some people, but they just don't do it. Right. But they have the same access to this shit that we do.
Right.
So it's like it in my mind, I feel like it is the way our media it portrays things. But before I get into that, tell me what you're thinking.
Well, but some of it is the internet. I mean, there's a lot of internet trolls, the bullying and all that stuff, and that affects people. But that's just, I think that's a small part of it. That's not a major part of it. Here, I'll show you. Here, I'm going to show you how to get some heat. I'm going to show you how to get people to be like, this is Anderson talking about. The Constitution is out of date. The Bill of Rights, all that stuff, the amendments, all that shit, or whatever that they wrote back in the day, it's all out of date because it was written in a time that's not today. You know what I mean? Because when, like, I know you've heard this argument. Everybody's heard the argument. When those laws were written, where they were like, everybody deserves to have a gun, it took 2 minutes to load it. It's not like you were going to go hurt a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And nowadays, so they made that rule. They're like, oh yeah, anybody can have a gun. All you need is some flint, some gunpowder, and a rock. You know what I mean? So you got to get all this stuff, and who's going to get all that stuff? You know what I mean? You're just like, it's old times. It's hot. I don't want to do this. So it's like they were like, yeah, sure, everybody could do that, and everybody did. Everybody walked around with a pistol, cowboys, all that stuff. Everybody had guns,
right?
And like you said, there wasn't school shootings or nothing. Yeah, people were killing each other.
Sure,
people are killing each other anyways. There's nothing you can do about it. But nowadays, because of, I mean, the internet has different levels. You got the trolling that triggers the kids or triggers the people, and then you got the internet that makes it easy for you to research anything, and then you got the internet to go ahead and get you anything. You know what I mean? So it's like it serves different levels of, perpetuating this, and the fact that people nowadays, everybody's right. You know what I mean? It's like everybody in their own minds. What I'm thinking is the only way. What you're thinking is stupid. And it's this not preservation, but not empowerment, but self. People are only concerned about themselves so much that they don't care. You know what I mean? You got these people out here who are like, well, it, how am I trying to explain
Well,
this?
they're like self-centered or something.
They're self-centered. They're all about themselves,
egotistical,
and
right.
and they read things. They see, you see these people you'll see something on the wall,
Yeah.
and they'll read it, and they'll get a completely different idea than what I've gotten out of it.
Right.
But it's plain as day. You know what I mean? It says don't go beyond this door. Well, then they go and they open the door and they look beyond it. And somebody says, "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here."
Yeah.
Can't you read the sign? And then they say, "Well, I'm free. I'm a free American. I could do whatever I want. I have the right to speak what I want, and say what I want, and do what." It's like, no, yeah, you do. But when it's just when you're in my place, these are my rules. You know what I mean? It's just like the whole mask thing.
Yeah.
It was like everybody's like, "Oh God, I don't have to do that because da 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 da." Well, then don't go to the store. Shut your mouth. You're not that important. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then these are the people who are freaking out and going, "Well, I have the right to do this and do this, so I'm going to get my gun and I'm going to come back and shoot you." And it's just like people, and like you said, the self-defense thing. Like, dude took a step towards me, so I pulled my gun and I shot him. Prove me wrong. You can't, because the other dude's dead. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what people, they interpret. Everybody nowadays is interpreting.
Yeah, interpreting.
I did a Kevin Baird. Epitome. Everybody's interpreting everything for themselves as opposed to what it is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. No, and you know what, I agree with you. You know what it is. There's twofold to this, and I think part of it is what I'm saying, which goes with what you're saying, and then the other part of it is that I think that a lot of people tie emotion to their thought processes about everything. Right. So they feel a certain way about something, and then that decides for them if something is right or wrong, right? Or this is the way they like it. How do I feel about masks? Well, I don't like them, so masks are bad, right? And so they'll look for things that agree with them. They'll look for things that say, your emotions are right here. You should feel like this because the government's trying to take over or something. Right. And then they fall into that because they feel a certain way about it. And they don't want to do people are busy. They don't want to do all the research and everything to learn about like things like that. They're more or less just on the lines of listening to news media and listening to the things that are being told to them by other people that sound smart. And then they're like, I agree with this guy because mask, I don't want to wear one. It ruins my makeup. So this guy says that masks don't work. So I believe that masks don't work. And so masks don't work. Right. Yeah. And, and so they feel like then when you counter with something that says like, well, here's the research on that shows that, and then they'll be like, well, that's not real because the people on the news will sit there and say like, this is fake news, or this isn't, this doctor here said something, or this doctor there said something. And then they're like, well, how do you know which doctor's right? And then like a logical person, which I tend to think I am because I look at everything very cold. I don't have the emotional bent that other people do. So, I look at everything like ice, and the thing is like, yeah, you got like 5 wacky doctors over here, and then like, 1 million doctors over there. Which side do you think's right? Oh, all those 1 million doctors are on the take or something. Like, you cannot argue with those people because emotionally they are just glued to their side. Right. And I think that the media plays into that. These people are preyed upon by a lot of this news and conspiracy people, and they don't realize it because they don't understand how monetization works, like how these businesses make money off of them, like, because they think, well, I'm not buying anything from this person. And it's like, right, but you're watching them and they get money for every time you watch these things, right? And, you subscribe to a political theory that these guys get kickbacks from, and a lot of people do end up buying things. They end up buying supplements. They end up buying books. They end up buying T-shirts and flags and hats.
I was going to say a flag,
stickers and everything else, because they become sort of indoctrinated into these things that back up their own, what they feel is their own beliefs, but they're really their own emotions towards these things.
And that's and here's something to prove that point. How many, like, growing up, right? We've gone through, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bush's. We've seen a lot of different presidents, a lot of different elections, a lot of different, tough battles in the election finals and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But only nowadays can you drive past someone's house and they have a giant flag that says "fuck Joe Biden,"
right?
Or they're driving around in a truck with a big flag. Let's go brand it.
So fucking divided, man. It's crazy. But look, I don't want to just knock on the right. They're a little bit more out there, so you can see them.
It goes the other way too, though. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's people who are like, "Don't blame me. I didn't vote for Trump," or what I mean. There's people who go both ways. So that's that. Right. I just said.
Well, I think part of it is like like you have. See, the problem I have with the left is that you have these people on the right, that believe and have a certain way of life, right? They believe in God. They believe in, a lot of them, right? They tend to be the religious right. They tend to be have a certain way of life that they want for their kids, etc. Right? And it's backed up by a lot of this sort of I don't know, Puritanism is one way of looking at it, or whatever, but it's like that country life, living free and all this sort of stuff. And then you get to the left that immediately says, like, all of these people are racist, and then they end up often dismissing their beliefs and their ideas, and immediately say that what they're doing is the right thing, right? Which is like just kind of like the whole, because we've talked about this on the show before, the choosing your gender, right? Like, that's like a really unusual thing that has happened in some subset of our culture. It's not a government thing, really. It's just a something that sort of exists now that is being pushed onto, say, businesses or, private individuals and things. And these people in their religious beliefs, which is, greater than like 50% of the country, don't believe in that. You know what I mean? Like, they think, that what they're talking about is sin or whatever, right? So they're never going to accept it. It's like you can't force it on them. And then but on the left side, they're like, well, then you should accept everyone and be how it is. But then which is, in my mind, is fine. But then you're sort of forcing them to do this whole pronoun thing, which we've talked about. And now you've got a problem. And what that creates isn't acceptance and understanding. It creates resentment. And you end up with, like, people like not wanting to talk to those people at all, resenting those people, and trying to find ways to marginalize or remove them. Right. And so you build up this culture of hate on both sides. And, you create this really strong division, and the news media plays on both sides, right? Both sides have problems and things that are wrong, but there's no one's looking for the balance here. Everybody's looking for, like, how can we chip away at the feelings on this? Hey, these guys are going to come and take away all your guns, or hey, these guys are going to put you in prison because you're gay. These things, you're never going to get married, and all this kind of stuff. Like, it creates fear. And this fear becomes like this overriding sensation in this country. Like, and Bowling for Columbine touched on this a little bit. Michael Moore, most people probably never watched that, which, a lot of people don't like Michael Moore. But when he was talking about gun culture, he was really trying to look at it and saying, like, what is different about the United States? Like, what is it that's the problem? And a lot of it seems to be that we live in a fear culture. where, if you watch the news in the United States, it's all like, like, does your macaroni and cheese have salmonella in it? It's going to kill you,
Throw out your peanut butter.
This guy was, trying to get his car repaired, and this guy, took him for a ride. Everything that you watch is a horror story on the news, and it's everywhere. And it's because, yes, that brings eyes to the news in the United States. And so that's how they make their money. But then you go to like where there's like the British Broadcasting, which is kind of like news that's just funded by everybody has to pay for it, right?
Right.
So they don't give a shit about advertising dollars and eyes and all this. I mean, they probably care a little bit. Somebody's got to watch it. Otherwise, they're not going to keep doing it. But the thing is that it's like if you go up to Canada and you put the news on, in Canada, it's going to be like, well, here's the scores for curling today. You know what I mean? Like they're not preying on your fears as much as they are in the United States. There's so much fear mongering here. And so like that psychologically, I think sinks into people, and you end up just being afraid to go outside of your fucking house because it's all bad. Like you just feel like everything's bad. The food you buy is bad. The government's bad. The salesmen are bad. Most of them are. It's all fucking terrible. And I think this just digs in. And then you get these people that go on the internet. They become ostracized from public groups. They don't want to be challenged in public places like a Facebook or something. They can't even anymore because Facebook, clips all their stuff or censors it. But my point being is that they end up in fringe areas of the internet where everybody agrees with them. And then it's all like, we should kill these people or whatever. It doesn't even have to be something like that. It might just be a non-murder group. And it might be a group that just is like, we need to ban abortion, right? Or we need to fight to,
no more alcohol.
Yeah, have a riot or something, right? And you end up with a bad perspective on things when you have this sort of narrow viewpoint that only agrees with what you believe and how you feel without having somebody challenge you, because now you're not around outside forces. Now, I don't know how you fix this problem, really. We're not going to get rid of the internet, right? And I think that realistically, we're not going to ban guns in this country. Now, we might get to a point where maybe we put some sort of a Brady bill in with some delay, but it doesn't matter because there's so many fucking guns out there right now that you and I will be long dead before there's like any kind of a reduction in gun violence based on any kind of restriction they place on current guns. And the voting bloc for guns, they're so powerful that they'll remove these restrictions. They'll remove these laws. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so hard to get anything passed. And then once they do, they just whittle away at them and then strip them out of everything so that guns are free and available all over again. So my thought process here is that what we need to concentrate on is that we have kids in a vulnerable situation in a lot of places. They're in schools. We're training them to hide under desks and lock doors against potential intruder that will come in with, heavy firearms. In some cases, like Columbine, more than one. They had bombs, right? So they luckily didn't go off, but they had built propane tank bombs and pipe bombs. And, they were hell bent to kill as many kids as possible. And so I think parents have to pay to have armed guards at schools, probably cops, but, have an armed guard at school. You have to create a deterrent, and you have to have also an action plan that says, what are cops doing, like just regular police, when this happens? Because like what happened recently, it doesn't sound like they had a good plan. I mean, it's like they didn't act on it right. Now it's getting investigated, but it's like cities need to have a plan. Cops need to have a plan. But I also just think that for parents, I mean, you're a parent, your kid goes to school. Like you need to have an armed guard at that school. Now, I'm not saying that armed guard needs to be in the middle of the hall with a gun, so all the kids are walking by with a guy with a gun, right? But
he's not walking around disciplining kids or nothing.
No,
like that.
he could be in a separate room, whatever. You know what I mean? And they can just call him out whenever. Look, he can do paperwork all day for all I give a shit, right? He could be like a cop that has to do paperwork, and he's doing it at the school in a little room. Right. And if there's a problem, that guy has to be trained to go deal with it. Call in the backup and then go handle it. But I think that guy will be enough deterrent that the kid that's thinking of this will realize that that's not a soft target anymore and won't attack that target. And I realize that then they're going to shoot at malls, how many there are left, and they're going to shoot at like a daycare or some other fucking horrible thing. But I think that parents send their kids to school to learn and because it's a safe place to go. Like every parent can make a decision about other places and whether it's safe and you know, if that's where they want to send their kids, but parents have to send their kids to school, or you could homeschool, I guess, but most people aren't doing that. So in my mind, regardless of what it costs, if the federal government has to pay for it, if people's taxes have to go up, if you want a solution now to this problem, you have to have an armed guard at the school. I mean, because if you're hoping it's going to be gun control or you think it's mental health or any of that shit, none of that shit's going to have any kind of an impact anytime soon. And in a month from now, you're going to have another fucking school shooting, or 2 months from now, or whatever it is. But what you could do is you could have an armed guard at the school tomorrow if you had the fucking willpower, you know, the conversations to do it, and that would deter it. And I just think parents, that's the first step. Long term, I think I think we have to have a conversation about this fear problem we have in this country. And stop just calling it like some people have a mental health issue. Like a lot of people in this country are on all kinds of fucking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And I think a lot of it is because it's become a society where we're all scared of each other. We're all scared of what's going to happen. Everybody's fucking fearful of everything. Everybody wants to buy organic food because nobody trusts the food. You know, I mean, you can think of anything. And people are fucking worried about it, you know? And this constant worry is just eating people alive in this country. And it trickles down to the kids. And kids feel hopeless, I think, you know? When it used to be like when you were in high school, I mean, I'm sure this still is for the majority of kids, you feel really helpless and you'd commit suicide. You know, kids would kill themselves. I mean, we had a good friend of ours that did. Right. And, you know, the thing is that you have this society today. I mean, if kids are out there looking at it, you have this sort of like hopeless future. Like if you're not a Kardashian or something, you know, where you're going to be able to make millions of dollars, what is your career going to be? You know, like now 99% of the kids figure it out, right? 99 of the kids decide, hey, I'm going to be a car mechanic, or I'm going to go to fucking law school, or I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be a cook or something. Like, I'm not thinking all kids are screwed up or something, but I'm saying there's that 1% out there of kids that just look at this and get really depressed and think like, you know, I'm nobody, I'm nothing. And they get scared and angry. And we just have this problem now where they're getting violent over it, because I just think we're not promoting, you know, a lot of feel good words out there to these people. You know, when we grew up, and I'm not saying this is something I enjoyed, I just want to point this out. But when we grew up, there were television shows on like The Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven, right? Aww. There were a lot of these shows that were just like out there to kind of make you feel good and kind of show you like the right way to kind of do things. You know what I mean? Not a lot of that anymore. Like a lot of it is like, there's comedies, right? But I mean, there's not a lot of these sort of, moral shows, you know what I mean? That are just kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but
even if there were, are we watching them?
Well, you and I wouldn't be, right? But I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like family shows, maybe they would, or, you know, but it's like a lot of content. I mean, if you go on like Netflix or something, man, it's like all murder TV all the time. I mean, it's just everything's a murder show or a comedy, or some sort of sporting thing. But it's like there's just so much murder. There's so many people obsessed with serial killers and murder shows and television. It's just constant. And why is that? Because people are thinking about it all the time because they're scared. They don't realize that they're scared, but they're concerned, and that's why they get all, focused on these kinds of things, because they're just like, it's like a survival tactic in a way. Like, how would I survive a murder, or who shouldn't I trust? Or, I heard this thing and this thing might do you in and stuff. And it's just, I just think personally that is what's really tearing society apart. I still think there should be gun restrictions. I'm a gun owner. I'm not anti-gun in any way. I just think that there has to be sensible stuff. Like, I'm sure the Democrats would like to get rid of all guns if they could. And, you have to find some sort of a balance. But I think that it's too loose right now. And I think it just needs to be tightened up a little bit. We had the Brady bill before where there were background checks on guns. And all the guns were still available. You could still get a gun.
Right.
Everybody could still do everything they were doing with guns. There was no problem with guns. There was just a wait. There was a wait. And but otherwise it was fine. So why not go back to something like that? Let's slow it down, or introduce some common sense stuff. And maybe raise the gun age to 21 too. I mean, unless you're in the military. Like, if you're in the military, I think you're in the right. You can have a gun. But if you're, 18, maybe take it to 21. Well, silly, you can't have a drink, but you can go shoot somebody.
There's two things with that.
Yeah.
Number one, it doesn't matter what you do with guns. They're like drugs.
Right.
People are going to get them. Kids are going to get them. People are going to get them. You know what I mean? It's just because they're manufactured. They're out there. Like you said, they are out there.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
So there's no way that you can stop people from getting what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, this falls into that whole category where we were talking about, where people start misinterpreting stuff and reading it for their own good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, look, to you and me, it's common sense. You got to do a background check. You're going to have to wait 2 weeks for you to get this gun.
Right.
But then that person said, well, it's my right to own a gun and I should have it right now. And it's like, you want to look at him and be like, dude, just wait 2 weeks.
Right.
That's all you got to do. You know what I mean? It's like, just shut up. Well, it's my right. It's my right. You know what? It's my right to punch you in the face, but I don't do it.
No, I mean, there's people out there that again, afraid that will turn into a Nazi state, that the government will become oppressive.
Who's telling me what to do?
And they'll take away everybody's guns, and that this is the only thing that guarantees people's rights and freedoms, because they, have a gun and they can defend themselves and their families and everything. And I don't disagree with some of that, but I also think that it's 2022. If the government becomes oppressive, you and your boys are not going to be in your pickup truck driving around. The government,
it ain't Red Dawn.
Yeah, the military has so much fucking firepower. It's just going to be ridiculous.
They don't need you and your 3 best friends in your Ford Ranger driving around.
Right. I mean, it's just, you're not going to rile everybody up. Most people are not. I would think that the vast majority of gun owners, if faced with a situation, they would not be able to fucking kill another human being. That's a big ass. That's a big lift.
Right.
You could point a gun at somebody and be like, hey, don't come near me, kind of thing. But to actually purposely go out and start killing people, that's rough. That's hard to do. And I don't think that, you're going to ever get that kind of a thing going on. But I don't want to take away people's rights. Like I said, I've got guns. It's just a matter of, I think even those people that you're talking about realize that the people that have mental health issues should not have firearms. Now, what defines a mental health issue? It can't be just somebody that happens to be on like a anti-anxiety medication. You know what I mean? There's got to be some sort of basis here of what that is, so that it's not too restrictive. But I think that you have to have some common sense there, so that at least some people shouldn't have firearms, man. I mean, but yes, they can still get them. I just think that's a longer term thing. It's probably going to happen more outside of you and I, but how many kids got to die, man? How many fucking people got to get shot and killed over stupid shit? It happens all. I mean, we used to have a show, what's happening in Cleveland, and we would talk like every week about about just the shootings in Cleveland. And if you listen to that, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, we turned it into a dark humor drinking game because it was fucking so many. It's crazy. Just shootings and houses getting shot and fucking people getting killed at bus stops. The guy was on fire in his yard. I mean, it's fucking nuts. The war is here, and people are just blind to it because they live in some safe zone. But it's gonna get you eventually if this keeps up, because it just seems like it's just escalating.
It's a safe zone, but it's their zone, and it's going to be their rules.
Yeah, no, I know, and it's just, as a society, we have to stop being so divisive and stop looking at it in black and white, guns or no guns, and come up with sensible legislation in the middle that says guns, but, and make it so it's like something that common sense makes sense, and don't make it too difficult, but slow it down. Just slow it down.
I know this isn't on the same level as talking about like buying guns or shooting people and stuff like that. But when I go to work, wherever I'm working, right?
Yeah.
And maybe people notice this in their daily routines, or maybe they don't. Maybe they notice somebody who does this. But there's always somebody who does the right stuff. The things you're supposed to do. And when you work it somewhere long enough, you get your shortcuts. You're like, oh, you know what? I don't have to do that. I could do this, this, and this, and then I can get around and blah, 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 blah. Right? Yep. And in their mind, it's like, oh, I'm just quicker. I'm more efficient, whatever. And I'm the kind of person that's like, well, no, they want you to do A, B, and C. I'm going to do A, B, and C. I'm not going to A and C.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, and yes, does it sound like and it may be a stupid thing. I'll admit it. I'll be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever had to do. And people would say to me at work, they'd be like, then why are you doing it? And I'd be like, because
it's the program.
That's what they want me to do.
Right.
And it's like, well, you don't have to. And it's like, no, I don't have to, but that's what the boss wants, or that's what the person in charge wants, or that's what whoever's paying me wants.
Right.
So whether or not I like it or not, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
I just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to stop at a red light. I don't want to, I don't have to use my turn signal.
Right.
But I do. Even when there's nobody around, I put my turn signal on. Why? I don't fucking know. It's because it's like, you know what? I don't know if there's a cop on the court. You know how many times I've been pulled over because the cop's like, you never used your turn signal. And it's like, there's nobody around. And they're like, yeah, but you never used it. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
But nowadays, I just do it all. You know what I mean? It's like those, and it's just the little things. It's like, I don't have to do this. I don't want to do this. But hey, guess what? I'm sucking it up. Who cares?
Right.
Just fucking do it. You know what I mean? Stop worrying about everybody else and just.
I think what it is there's people out there that would think that, if a law was oppressive, they would want to rebel against it. And really what you have to realize is that in this country, like, a lot of people will agree with you about something that's not right. And we have the power to vote, and you have the power to make change in this country that you don't have in, like, say, Putin's Russia, right?
Yeah, right.
You have the ability here to actually make things change if you don't agree with them. Now, there are things that there's a division on. Half the people think one thing, half the people think the other thing. You're not always going to get your way. That's why you look for middle ground. You try to find a best solution for both sides. Sometimes that even doesn't work out, and you might not get your way. But a lot of times, if some things are, oppressive, you can change them. And, that's the great thing about the United States. But unfortunately, a lot of people just don't believe in that kind of thing, and they just feel as though, nobody's got them. A lot of people don't vote. They don't want to, get involved in the political system, et cetera. They don't want to talk to their representatives or their senators and things to try to make changes happen. So they just break laws or feel as though they're being oppressed. And it's, I don't know. I mean, it just goes to the deeper roots of these problems, that just society is, and it's really weird. Like, the generation that's coming up, it's like a generation that, has had a lot of, parental involvement and guidance and, focus and everything. And I would like to think that these kids that are coming up, are going to have better, compassion for their other people than what, like, it's not even our generation. Generation X is suspect of everything. Some of it is us, but we're a short generation. It's mostly we're coming out of the baby boomers here that have decided where we're at. And I'm kind of hoping that the younger generation maybe can find a kinder middle ground than where we're at. But who knows? All right. Anyway, that was about 45 minutes of that. So
yeah, well, I'm not done. No, I'm just kidding.
We're not solving any kind of crises on this show.
No,
but just wanted to give some perspective on it. That's all.
Yeah. Everybody stop being dicks. How about that?
Yeah.
Here's my perspective.
Don't kill people. Kill yourself.
You don't have to like everybody on the planet.
Right.
Just be. You know what I mean?
It's not that bad. Life's not that bad. Stop getting depressed. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, you'll date somebody else, or you'll fucking find somebody, and there's lots of video games and cool movies and tunes to listen to, and maybe you're not finding that enjoyable. There's good food to eat. It's crazy how much fucking great food there is. It's like at the tip of your fingertips,
Right.
And once, like Don and I talked about, you get a job, you get that, like back in our day, you get that $10 an hour. That's all you need. You're set. You get to live. You're rocking. It's good life.
Good. Yeah.
You're having fun with your friends. You're doing stuff. You're going out. Life's not that fucking complicated. And if it gets bad, they're trying to put you in a cattle car or something at some point. To go gas you. I mean, you can always just check yourself out then. You don't got to go murder people. Like, what the fuck is that about? I never understand any of that shit anyway. But anyway, all right.
So go on. So, anyways.
So ObiWan.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Boy. Listen, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why does Disney or Star Wars or whatever, maybe it's just me. Why do they have their hero, quote unquote heroes or main characters? It's like the shows all start the same way. Oh my God, here's what he's doing. Oh my God, something drastic happened. And then somebody comes to that person and goes, we need your help. And they all do the same thing. No. I can't help you. And it's like, but you're the only person who could do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it. It's like a big emotional thing. And then something else happens that makes them go, okay, I'm in. It's like, why don't you have one of these shows just start out where it's like they go to the person, they go, hey, we need your help. And the person's like, okay, I'll help you. You know what I mean? Like, it's always the same, you know what I mean? With like the Mandalorian, they're like, we need you to go get this Yoda. And he's like, all right. And then he's like, if you want to save this thing, you can keep it. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he stops and he just looks around, has this thing. Nope, I'm going to save the kid. And same thing with Obi-Wan.
Yep.
It's like he comes out and he's like, they're like, oh, we got a problem. We need your help. And he's just like, no, I can't do it. Just go out in the desert and unbury your fucking lightsabers. Let's go. Jerk.
Listen, I agree with you on that. Like, that may be just bad fucking writing, which is all over the place on this one.
Because really, if you think about it, they got Han Solo involved, and then they were like, hey, we need your help. And he was like, nah, I'm out of here. And then what happens? He came back at the end, and he was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
But spoiler alert for anybody.
Spoilers.
It's going to be a little bit of spoilers here because that's how this show is. Princess Leia showing up.
Yeah, what's that?
Really made me want to just shut it off immediately.
Like, really?
I mean, it just was. It reminded me of that little joke you had about all the guys pulling into the fucking Death Star that all knew Darth Vader, right? Like,
yeah.
This is a galaxy of fucking people, right? And we're supposed to now think that fucking Obi-Wan, like, knew Leia when she was a child? Come on, man. Come on.
He was protecting Luke.
Stop it, man. It's ridiculous. Hey. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. I understand. But it doesn't mean that he knew her when she was like 6 or 7 or whatever, how old she is. I mean, it's just like it.
He obviously did.
Because I'm sure I knew some people when I was 6 and 7, and if I was being chased by fucking people, I would not be like, telling my R2 unit, hey, go find this old fucking guy that's like got to be 90 now to come help me out because he's my only hope. Like, I just find it irritating that they decided that this is the thing. Like, because what they're doing is they did bank on the Mandalorian because of Grogu, right?
Right.
And they're like, we need another Grogu, right? We didn't have that with House of Fett, really, but so they threw Grogu in there. So we need something else that's cute because we're fucking Disney. And we always got to put in fucking cute shit into everything. So they're like, how about a little girl? How about a young Leia? And so that's the fucking
with the little robot thing.
Yes.
Lola, don't hurt Lola.
It's so now I'm not saying that. Listen, I understand George Lucas had Henson and there were cute Ewoks and shit, but that's like the worst part.
Yeah.
Nobody liked that fucking Ewoks. Like, you know what I mean? They wanted it's fucking ridiculous, But yeah, it's Disney now that they got their hands in it and they're marketing people and everything. They shove these fucking things in there, and then they got to bring up fucking Darth Vader's coming back and shit. Now, okay, that's kind of interesting, maybe, but like, to be honest with you, I'd almost like to see how Darth Vader progresses from where he was at the end of the first three films to when he's basically running the show. You know what I mean? Like with the Death Star.
10 years after.
Yeah. Like how did he he gets in his new outfit and then what does he do? He just goes to the Emperor and he's like, can you give me a job, boss? I mean, you know what I mean? Like I am kind of interested in that angle of it. I'm not really interested in depressed Obi-Wan, who we know at the end of this thing is going to go hide out in a cave once again on Tatooine, where everybody happens to hang out at, because there's only a couple planets that
they go to.
They all go to and hang out at. The desert world is very popular.
There's an ice world, a desert world.
Yeah,
a plant world.
You don't get a lot of people hanging out at Hoth, though, right?
An air world.
This is like, the Chewbacca's land, not a lot, but Tatooine, whoo, they got a lot of activity
shit going on over there.
Fucking A, man.
Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Do you think nobody in the Empire knows what this dude looks like? Because he's just walking around town, but he's like skulking and he's like hiding and he's like, but he's working somewhere.
Everybody knows what he looks like based on the Clone Wars. Everybody knows who the fuck.
You would think the Empire would be like in that scene where the dude put the bounty on him and he pops up on all the bounty chips or whatever.
Right.
And it's like you would think that would already been out there.
He would be hunting like these Inquisitors too. Those were dumb. I mean, they were not interesting. I mean, the first guy, he looked like the lead singer to My Chemical Romance or something, or my whatever, one of them bands.
Yeah.
And then you just got a black woman,
and then a green Raiden.
Yeah, right. And the black woman ends up being the toughest, which I'm fine with, but it's just like not interesting. Not like she has a lightsaber. She a Sith? What the fuck is she? I don't even know. But they're not Darth Maul. You know what I mean? Like it's just it looked cheap. And I'm just like, fuck, man. This is also like 6 episodes, maybe. So we've already watched like a third, or what is it? 8 episodes?
I'm not sure how many there are.
I don't know. And it's like, it's just not good. It's not, you and I talked too. I want to real quick. You and I talked previously about this with Jessica Jones and Daredevil and those other ones where maybe 13 episodes was too many.
Right.
And we were like, maybe 9 would be good or something. Like, I'm still kind of hanging there about 9 or 10 episodes would be good. I don't like this 6 episode stuff.
Right.
Like, that just seems like they filmed a movie and they cut it up into episodes, basically.
Right.
Like, I think it's like, granted, they didn't have a lot of content for House of Fett or whatever, but the rest of this just seems like the everything they're doing with the Marvel and everything, it's so short. I like Moon Knight didn't have enough backstory, or it was just all confused and like they could have made it better, and it's just like they're cramming it all in, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like the way it is. I would rather have it be a little bit more longer, so where there's some development. And the funny thing is about that, and I remember reading about it, was that like Netflix had asked them for those shows, when they were going to renew them again, that they were like, look, we don't want to do 13 episodes. We'd rather do something, like 8 episodes. And Disney had come back and was like, no, it's 13 or nothing. You got to take it or leave it. And it may have been because at that time, because of the contracts with the actors or something. I don't know. But my point being is that it's kind of messed up that Disney was like, no, you have to have 13 episodes. And then when they start doing shows, they're just like, yeah, we got 6 episodes for this fucking thing.
Both are wrong.
It's right. It's like it needs to be, there needs to be a few more, I think.
Yeah.
It needs more,
6 isn't enough to build the story.
Right.
And the fact that they have 6 is they're trying to put all the story into those 6.
Yes.
And it's like, that's not enough to do that. Plus have your arc.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't give me a backstory about somebody and the history of it and how he became that way and what he's doing.
Right.
And then plus, oh, by the way, we have this whole bad guy situation going on. It's 6 isn't enough.
No, it's right. It's not. And the regular network TV, they used to have like 24 episodes, 23, 24 a season.
Right.
And when you get down,
but those are half hours.
Well, even hour shows.
Yeah, depending on the show.
And so then you're like, you get into the first streaming shows or whatever you want to call them, or cable shows. Let's say even cable would be about 13 episodes. So I just think that some of those are a little long. I mean, if you look at The Walking Dead as an example, 13 episodes. A lot of times you don't need maybe 3 episodes in that season. They're just a wash. So somewhere around 9 or 10 is probably the right mark. So if you're listening, Disney, stretch that shit out a little bit more. Pay people a little bit more. Make it a little bit more. You got gaps anyway. These shows start, and then we got to wait a few weeks for the next show. Like, we don't need a gap. Just play it all the way out and then start the next show right away like everybody else does. It's fucking stupid.
I think a lot of their thing with their shows is like, all right, what holes can we fill in the original story? Because there'd be so many holes, what I mean? They'd be like, oh, well, if we did this, we can't do that because of this, or we can't do this, we do this. And it's like they're just building shows around it. Like, all right, well, how do we explain this twist? Oh, we just got this guy. Who's this guy? I don't know. He's some new guy we just made up. He comes in and does it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. They can do all kinds of things. Like they could even take like 2 characters instead of making these all like 1 character shows, and they could put 2 characters together and then double the episode size and split it up between episodes or something. Because
they did that. Some
of this shit I'm watching, I don't know. Like I'm like find some of these things kind of boring. And if they had maybe some other character that I cared about more than the other one character, I might keep watching it, like it's, I don't know.
Can I say, I'm going to say this, having, I don't know how to say his last name, Kunal, whatever, you know who I'm talking about, the Jedi at Tatooine, I'm a Jedi and I'm doing the mental mind control. Remember that guy?
Yeah, okay.
The same guy from the Eternals.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that guy. I've always been kind of like, oh yeah, he's a pretty, he's a pretty good actor or whatever, and he's usually funny in the parts that he does.
Yeah.
But when he popped into Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was just like, not this guy.
Right.
I was just like, why? What do we have comic relief in this for? Like, there was never any comic relief. I mean, there was little
the droids.
Yeah, there was a little ha hoo 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 here and there. You know what I mean? But this guy, I don't know. I was just like, that kind of threw me off.
No,
I had nothing against him, but
I got the feeling that's why they were on the fence about this thing and even making it into a movie, because that's what they were originally supposed to do with this script. Is it was supposed to be a film, and I think it went through some rewrites, and it doesn't even seem like it's filmed very well. I was watching it, and there's a lot of dark, and there's like some fog, and it's kind of, I don't know. They're in that city and everything. It doesn't feel right to me at all. Like, it just doesn't feel like It's the same problem I guess I had with House of Fett, where they were just in this desert town. But I feel like they're using these really cheap sort of backgrounds in the sense of this is like, it's not fucking America. You know, this is like space. It's you know, there's all kinds of shit. There should be crazy monsters and fucking, you know, all sorts of shit that Lucas was always throwing in there. And instead it's like, you know, they're running around on rooftops and you know, grabbing wires and shit. It's irritating.
At one, maybe it's this, because I was watching it, and at one point while I was watching it, I went, I'm pretty sure this area was in Boba Fett.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure that building and like the same actors and the same people. It looks, you know what I mean? I was like, I bet you they're using all the same sets for all these shows. They're just like, screw it. Who's on set? Boba Fett. All right, do that one. Oh, who's next? Obi-Wan. Okay, do that one. Well, who's next? Mandalorian. Put him in the desert. You know, like, hey, we got it all set up. Just put them out there.
Yeah, I think there was a high watermark when it was the end of last Mandalorian or wherever, where Luke shows up, and spoilers.
Yeah, and, right, from a show 2 years ago.
Yeah, you people should know, and that was like, wow, that was really cool what they did there. I was impressed because I liked Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, right.
It takes me back to those movies, but I also think, you know, he's badass at that point. Sure, you know, he's using the Force, he's fucking up those things. That was awesome, right?
Yeah.
High watermark. I don't really have a problem with the Mandalorian in the sense of that character. I think he's kind of an interesting character.
Right.
You know, I think that, you know, his whole being a bounty hunter, and then he gets involved in this stupid fucking Yoda dude. But, you know, okay, not terrible. But what they're doing with Boba Fett, like you talked about, totally unnecessary. Yeah. And now we got this Obi-Wan thing, which I'm not feeling too good about it. I'll watch the next one because I kind of just want to see what they're doing with Darth Vader. But I mean, we kind of know. I mean, we just sort of know Obi-Wan's just going to end up on a cave, and Ted, he's not going to get any answers. He's just going to get more bummed out, and he's going to go hide out somewhere. So, you know, what is he really doing? He's just protecting Leia. We know Leia survives. She's not in any danger of dying. So what are we doing?
Maybe for Mental Health Awareness Month, they're going to have him come face to face with Darth Vader, and he's just going to freeze up and just be like, oh, and not know what to do. Obi-Wan.
I mean, fuck him, you know?
Oh, wait, no, he's not, because Darth Vader kills him later.
Right.
In A New Hope. Right. So I guess if they meet up face to face, they're both walking away.
I mean, it really, and then it's like, what, Anakin, he was a maniac at the end of the movie anyway. Like, you know, what, does he feel bad about what happened? Like, fuck him, you know?
Yeah.
It's that guy, he's the fucking Darth Vader. Like, you have the Force, you know? Ask Yoda.
Yeah.
You're going to be joining them soon. No, but you're right. I think that this isn't going to be good. And then we've got, what, Miss Marvel coming next, I think?
Don't care.
Never cared about the character. I never really paid any attention to the character at all.
That character came in after I stopped reading. So it's like, so I know nothing.
I don't know anything about her either. And She-Hulk, I mean, I looked at the trailer.
Did you see the trailer?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. I don't care about her.
It seems like a goofy courtroom comedy dramedy
right,
or whatever. You
right.
know? Like, see how Jennifer Walters walks around all green, acting like a normal person.
Right. And whatever. I mean, that's Disney. That feels like a Disney property. Yeah. It'll probably do well for them. I don't care about it, but I understand that. Fine. Yeah. Go ahead and do what you're going to do with that. You know, girl power and all that. Fine. I don't care. I don't know. It's, I just wish Disney had more shows and weren't just doing this one show at a time, so that there was like 3 shows and I could pick the best of the 3 to watch.
You gotta watch, I can watch the one I want.
Right. Because right now I feel like I'm just, you know, it's just a bunch of fucking fodder that I got to go through. Anyway. Yes. We're over. Thanks everybody for listening. I don't plan on us complaining about this episode or this series every week. I've learned that if I'm going to watch one episode or two, that I'm probably not going to watch the whole thing. But they kind of ended it with Vader, So I'm going to watch one more, and I'll see how I feel at the end of that. But if it's as bad as these first 2 episodes, I don't think I'm going to finish it this time. I think I'm just going to let it go. Because
you hear that? You hear that, Disney?
Because it doesn't bring me any happiness. I feel.
You don't feel the need to have to watch. You don't. You're not sitting here going like, I can't wait until next whatever day it is that this episode comes out.
Right?
Is it Fridays? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's Fridays now, and it's just not. Yeah, I don't need to suck up an hour of my life to watch something depressing and not good. All right. Anyway, on that note, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.